Hey everyone, it's Ryan 1940 here. Today we're in the Mi-8 HIP on Enigma's Cold War server, and we're going to drop off Recon troops here. This Hind has escorted me all the way from the FARP to the front line, and he's going to tag along with us as we go and try to destroy a factory that is in this sector. Typically after a drop, I like to circle around the area and either find new targets to attack or just stay out in an area where I can just keep my speed going in case something happens. Here though, we drop the Recon and we can see the blue smoke come up from the new JTAC mechanic that happens when you drop the troop Recon. So I know that we're pretty close to this enemy camp and we need to drop standard troops to destroy them. So immediately I try to lower my altitude and get a little close to drop the second set of troops down on the ground. So for this sortie we brought one Recon squad, two standard squads which are dropping right now, and then we also have on board one Special Operations Forces squad that's just going to stand by in the aircraft. Now Syria kind of gets a bad rap on the desert side, saying that it's featureless and it's just wide open for you to get shot down, but this kind of demonstrates there are little hills and stuff that are tall enough to shield you from any fire and put your helicopter down. So that's what I like to do when I'm out here on this side of the map. So after I dropped off these troops, I periodically look at the chat and I can see an M60 tank is killing some Russian soldiers, which isn't good. I haven't seen the landing zone yet because I'm flying away and I can't turn back towards the landing zone because of the proximity to that enemy camp. I don't want to get shot down because at the moment the Hind is trying to attack the air defense there. I think there's some Bofors in that camp. So I've got this sinking feeling that we lost all our guys, and I'm not going to be able to know until we turn back and I can either see them standing in a formation still or if there's some sort of cratering on the ground, but we kind of hope for the best at this point. So now it's just a waiting game. I've got a timer going on my phone for the 5 minutes it takes for that first Recon drop, and then I've also got another timer for the 3 minutes that will have to elapse for the ground forces, the standard troop drop to kill the enemy camp. Once again, we're hoping for the best, but when I turn back in here and fly towards that blue smoke, I can't get too close. But I'm flying really low because I'm looking for the soldiers to see if they're still standing around, and I unfortunately don't see them, and I start to get too close to the camp and I've got to circle back again once more. One of the things that keeps me entertained while I'm doing these circles out here in the desert is looking in the chat and seeing some of the funny screen names you guys have. And this guy, FTQ Birdlaw, I think it references my favorite show, which is Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and Charlie Day plays a character named Charlie, and he thinks that he is really well versed in bird law in America, which doesn't make any sense. But yeah, just seeing these things keep me entertained while we're going around here waiting for our timers to elapse. Now these last two drops kind of highlighted why I like to drop soldiers and then go on and fly some more, because when we dropped the Recon group, because we took off after we dropped and we didn't stay put, we were able to see the JTAC smoke and understand really close by there's a group that we could attack with standard troops. Now you get exposed more because you're flying around and obviously people can see you, but it goes both ways. You can see threats coming at you better than you would sitting on the ground. The worst thing that can happen in a helicopter is if you're sitting on the ground and an enemy helicopter comes up at you, because they can shoot down at you from the perch position with a door gunner or something, and most of the times you don't know what's going on, what direction the gunfire's coming from. By the time you can lift off and try to engage them, it's just too late. And unfortunately, we get the news that the squad is KIA. You saw that there on the top right of the screen. I'm still holding out for the Recon guys because this was the standard squad that had the 3 minute timer. There's still a minute or two left on the Recon timer, and I'm hoping that they're not dead, because at least we can continue on with the recon squad and with the SOF guys. And mainly I want the SOF guys to have a target, and to be able to do that, recon has to be done to unveil the infrastructure targets here in the sector. As you see there, our worst fear has been realized. We lost the recon squad, and because they died, we didn't unveil any positions. And so now I've got 2 lost standard squads and 1 lost recon squad. All 3 of those guys are gone. Our groups are gone. I've only got the SOF guys now, so I'm going to inform the Hind that's been flying with me of my intentions to go fly towards the factory icon that's drawn on the map to see if that was at least revealed beforehand. I didn't think about this at the time, but if that was revealed, I think you should see the orange icon on the map, but we didn't see that. Regardless, I wanted to fly out there and take a look for myself. It took a while, but I circled all around where the factory was drawn on the map. Nothing was present, so it confirmed my suspicion that we needed some sort of recon done. I think now you actually need recon credit jets to find the factories. I didn't remember that at the moment, and maybe I'm mistaken, but I asked the well, first I tell the Hind I don't have any more recon, so I'm just basically gonna have to chalk this up as a big loss and fly all the way back to base. But luckily he said that he was carrying recon troops, and he wasn't quite sure how to use them, but I told him, yeah, just let's land here in this area, and then I'm sure if you drop your recon, we would be in an area where we'd find something. Now that I've landed, this is something that I always check for before we depart the FARP, and at this point I had forgotten what the briefing had said for the wind. Now in the briefing you'll get 2 wind values. One is the heading that the wind is blowing, and one is the heading that the wind is coming at you. So the way that they've labeled that in the briefing in DCS is the Mateo one is the heading that shows you, is basically the heading you want to fly into when you're landing, because that's the direction the wind's coming down from, coming at your aircraft. So in this particular mission it was at 090. It's always good to keep that in mind, so that helps you when you want to land. You can get some extra lift and make the landing a lot softer. While I'm sitting here in the co-pilot's seat, admiring the Hind landing and dropping his recon guys off, I noticed my inverters were set to manual for some reason. I don't know how that happened, because I always click it down to auto when I start the helicopter. So that was really bizarre, but this is going back to what I said earlier, where you can drop troops and you can wait and you're kind of vulnerable. But in a situation like this, the reason I want to stay on the ground is because I've got this kind of bowl around me, and hoping that when the Hind's recon finds the factory or the infrastructure, that it's really close to us, and because I'm already on the ground, I can just drop the special operations guys off, and then I can just fly off. So that's the hope, and that's why I'm just sitting down here waiting. Surprisingly, this was the Hind's first troop drop, I think, so he asked in the chat, how do we go about doing the recon drops. I think it's a great teachable moment for anybody watching that's never done it. Basically, you arm your troops to drop, so there's the communication menu, and then you can go through the menus. I think it's in the F10 other, there's a command for troop drops, and then you select what squad you want to drop. So in this case you want to drop a recon one, you tell them to do that, and then if you're on the ground already, they'll just come out of the aircraft. If you're in the air and you're over a hex, you can't be in the no man land between the sectors. You have to be in a sector, so either blue or red, it doesn't matter. You can arm the troop drop, and then the moment you land in an enemy hex, they'll just come out. So I really like that about Yink's system, because you can arm it so you don't have to worry about clicking through while you're on the ground, and there's a million other things going on. So when you do that, they will just pop out of the aircraft, and you just wait 5 minutes. That's all you got to do. So you can fly off, or you can sit there and wait 5 minutes. And regardless of what you do, after the 5 minutes elapses, if they haven't died, like our guys did, you will see in the top right corner, it'll tell you how many units you found, and if you found any infrastructure targets. Then now, after that is done, you can go to the F10 map, and you can see a bunch of orange circles within the area that you uncovered, and If you click on those orange circles, you're going to see the exact type of unit it is, so it can help you kind of judge what you want to go after. Now after the recon is complete, the recon soldiers sometimes will be kind of near the spot you dropped them off. Sometimes they kind of go wander off into trouble like ours did. But if they go into an area that you can't readily land next to pick them up, you don't have to worry about that. If they go into like a forest or something like that, all you have to do is hover within 75 meters of the guy that's firing the flare. So with a recon squad, it's 2 people. One of them is going to be shooting a flare, I think, every second or 2 seconds or something like that. You have to be within 75 meters from him. And you can't be moving more than, I think, 1 knot. So you've got to have a pretty stable hover, but it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, there is some wiggle room there. And the check for that happens every time the flare gets fired. So you might be in a stable hover, and then the moment he's going to fire the flare, you kick the cyclic over and you move a little bit. Well, now you got to wait until the other flare happens, or the next flare happens, and then the guys will just pop up back into your aircraft. So don't fret if the squad just shows up in a forest or in an urban environment. Just hover over the flaring guy and you should be good. I can't remember if this is true or not, but I think if you land your soldiers and you stay put on the ground, the troops are not going to run off. If you lift off, then there's a chance that they will go and run off, and I think you see that here with this Hind. He was sitting on the ground for a while and eventually lifts off, and you can see his recon guys running off into the distance there. And at this point I'm hoping they don't get killed, because this is the last opportunity we have to uncover targets for the special operations guys I'm carrying. And we're pretty far from the home FARP, so I'm really hoping this is going to work out. As the Hind's recon soldiers go running over the hill there, I try to explain to him in chat to hang back a little bit, because if you're escorting a HIP and you're in a Hind yourself, it's really cool to fly alongside each other and all that stuff, but really we want to have the aircraft spaced out, because the odds are if one of us gets spotted, the other can help and might not be detected by the enemy, so they could be successful in helping the other guy. Also, if one of us is on the ground and the other is circling right overhead, it's kind of dangerous, because someone could get lucky and see the higher flying aircraft and then shoot them down. All they have to do is look down right below them and see another aircraft and shoot that one, and now we've got 2 aircraft losses where we probably could just had 1 had we spaced everybody out. His recon troops found the infrastructure target, which is great. Now they're not going to find any regular units in this case, because we're kind of far into the enemy sector, and generally you're only going to see enemy encampments along the border with your hex. So anytime there's a border with the opposing sides, you'll probably find enemy encampments kind of near it. The only time that's not true is if you've got this strange hex where the way the terrain is, or there's a forest along the border, then you're not going to see the camps along the border, because they like to, on the server, they like to put encampments where people can see them, so generally they're almost always out in the open, and you know, if that's just not possible, then you'll see them further in the hex. So I start going to look in the map to figure out where this target is that we're going to hit, and it's about 15 kilometers away from the spot we're at, so I've got to fly off. And after I'm done looking at the map, I think the Hind actually crashed on landing or something and is damaged, so unfortunately I've got to bail on him, and we say our goodbyes, and I head out to go see what we can do against these trucks that are out there. After a little bit of flying, we're able to visually see the 3 trucks that are out there on the road, and this is the funnest stuff that I love to do in the HIP here. It's just coming in really fast, you know, over 250 kilometers per hour, and then coming to an accurate stop near the point of contact there where you want to put the troops down. So I do like the special operations drops, because you can drop them off within, you know, 7.5 kilometers of a target, but this is a lot cooler because they don't shoot back at you and you can get really close. That was so much fun. Like, I can do this over and over again. I just enjoy coming in hot, and you can kind of get away with a bit if you know how to manipulate the cyclic and stuff. Like you saw that we skid our tires a little bit there, but you can counter that with some good cyclic input and be easy on the collective and then touch it down. You can see I used the brakes. I don't know if you heard it. I didn't want to continue to roll forward if my rotor disc was pointed a weird way, so that was pretty fun. Now the next task at hand is there's an enemy FARP that's really close to this area, and I'm really worried that a Huey or a Gazelle is going to take off and spot us if they're going off to the front. We're very noticeable, so I want to fly out there and I want to keep my eyes on the location. So this left-hand turn is kind of a little bit dangerous because we lose sight of the FARP there, but eventually it's going to set us up to come straight and we'll see the FARP again on the left-hand side. Now, we don't have a working tail gunner on the hip at the moment by default. What happens, I've found, is you actually, if you're on the FARP and you can't see the controls for the AI rear gunner, which happens all the time if you log into the server, what you have to do is conduct a repair. While you're at the FARP, conduct a repair, and while you're shut down, obviously. After you do the repair, then reload the guns, and then you'll see on the AI manager that you do see the tail gunner once more, and they should start engaging stuff. It kind of sucks that you have to do it this way, so if you don't mind not having the tail gunner, then just carry on like normal. Obviously, I really love going after these infrastructure targets, you know, from the oil tanker to the oil rig, and you've got these convoys and stuff on the land side. And I wish there was some sort of added benefit to doing these little raids, because, you know, the question would be, why wouldn't you be able to use standard troops to destroy these 3 trucks, right? And, you know, I think that's a fair argument. People should be able to use standard troops to destroy these trucks. But maybe you can make the argument that if you did a successful spec ops raid on this convoy, you know, part of raids in real life is to collect intelligence, so perhaps they get intelligence from this successful raid, and then maybe you get a recon buff in that sector and you get more units revealed or something like that. Something to give an extra benefit for taking the time to be able to go and do this. You probably just saw really quickly I had checked the briefing once more, because I of course forgot what direction the wind was coming in again. It is coming in at 90 degrees, like I said earlier. And one thing I actually noticed now watching the footage again is there's a tire that has a little white flag on it inside that convoy. And that, I think, is blowing the correct direction. The reason I wanted to double check the wind again was because I wanted to understand where it was coming from in anticipation for these guys to get picked up. I wanted to be able to just go in there, grab them really quickly, and just dive on out, because our proximity to that FARP is pretty dangerous. Man, seeing these guys light up those trucks the way they're doing when I come into land is just so cool, and I wish that we had better troop animations to do combat like this, and then to run into the helicopter. That would just be absolutely phenomenal to see. Oh man, it's pretty awesome. Now, I don't have SRS installed anymore, and I didn't have any voice comm, so I had to chat away to somebody who was flying a Hind, because I think they wanted to help me at first, but then they realized they're too far off, and I wanted to let them know not to worry about it, because I was RTBing. Unfortunately, I didn't have this running when I did get shot down. Ultimately, I mean, you could imagine I'm pretty far deep in the enemy sector, and I had this dilemma of having to cross the border into the friendly sector. The problem was that many of those enemy camps weren't discovered yet from Recon, and because of that, I didn't know what areas to avoid. And as I got closer to the front line, multiple Bofors from different directions just lit up my hip, and I was shot down. So unfortunately we got shot down, but I still had a lot of fun. We were able to do at least one drop, but the drop was really cool and I had a lot of fun doing it. We got to work with some other Hinds out there that were trying to help us, and yeah, it was pretty cool despite the losses that we took. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.